Hi guys, welcome to the next part of me reading Hamlet by William Shakespeare. I turned and stumbled back to Horatio. His face was grey and he quivered with fear. "Such sights are enough to drive a man mad," he whispered. I laughed then, long and hard, because Horatio had unwittingly provided me with an answer. Who could have more freedom than a mad prince? If I pretended to be mad, I could say whatever I wished and search for the truth without arousing Claudius's suspicions. And so my plan took shape. I wore nothing but black. I wandered through the castle, weeping and sighing, seeking out shadowy places to brood. If anyone spoke to me, I answered with the first wild nonsense that came into my head, and all the time I watched Claudius, looking for the slightest sign of guilt. I cut myself off from all my friends, except Horatio. I told him everything, for I knew he was the only one that I could trust. A rumour began to spread through the castle that grief had turned my wits. So far, my plan was a success. But it is one thing to invent a plan, and another thing to carry it through. The strain of pretending, of cutting myself off from kindness and good company, was almost too great to bear. There were times when I thought I truly had gone mad, when I felt I could no longer carry the burden of what the ghost had told me. If I avenged my father, my mother's new husband would be revealed as a murderer, and her happiness would be shattered. If I did not, my father's soul was doomed to eternal torment. Worst of all, I was tortured by doubt. What if Claudius were innocent? What if I had been deceived by an evil spirit? Questions went spinning through my mind, like the stars spinning around the earth. Then one day, on a bleak afternoon, alone in my room, I drew my dagger and stared at it. The blade was sharp. If I used it on myself, death would come quickly, and all my doubts and worries would be over. But what then? Would I be sending my soul into an even worse torture? I weighed the dagger in my hand, balancing the fear of what I must do to avenge my father against the fear of what might follow death. It seemed I lacked both the courage to go on with my life and the courage to end it. Hearing a knock at my door, I sheathed the dagger and called out, "Come in!" almost relieved at the interruption. A woman entered. It was Lady Ophelia, her fair hair shining like a candle flame, her eyes filled with love and concern. My heart lifted, then sank. Ophelia and I had loved each other since we were children. Before my father's death, I had been certain that she was the one I would marry. But now everything had changed. There was no room in my heart for love. "Lord Hamlet," Ophelia said, "my father asks if you will attend the performance of the royal players tonight." As soon as she mentioned her father, I knew what was happening. Her father was Polonius, the royal chamberlain, a meddling fool who loved gossip and secrets. He had sent Ophelia to try and discover why I was acting so strangely. Ophelia would report everything I said to Polonius, and he would report it to Claudius. I was sickened. The castle of Elsinore was a place where brothers murdered brothers, wives forgot their husbands, and fathers used their daughters as spies. I laughed carelessly to hide the ache I felt when I looked at Ophelia's beautiful face. "Tell Lord Polonius that I shall be at the play," I said. Ophelia turned her head, and I saw a tear fall across her cheek. "My lord," she murmured, "why do you never look at me the way you used to? There was a time when I believed you loved me, and wished us to marry, but now you seem so cold." I longed to tell her how much I loved her, and that my coldness was nothing more than acting, but I did not dare. "You? Marry me?" I said roughly. "Marry no one, Ophelia. Wives and husbands are all cheats and liars. It would be better for you to join a convent and become a nun." At this she ran for the room, her sobs echoing through the corridor, making my heart break. And then, just as I thought there was no end to my despair, an idea came. First a glimmer, then a gleam, then a burst of light brighter than the sun. I hurried from my room and went to the great hall, where the actors were setting up their stage. I found their leader, a tall man with a look of my uncle about him. After chatting for a few moments, I said casually, "Do you know the play, The Murder of Gonzago?" "Certainly, my lord," came the reply. I handed the man a purse filled with gold. "Act it tonight," I said, "but I want you to make some changes to the story. Listen carefully. I meant to turn the play from an entertainment into a trap to catch a king." And I'll stop for today, so remember to come back tomorrow for the next part.